In the final years of the 19th century, archaeologists working among the sands of Egypt, the jungles of South America, and the ruins of the ancient Mediterranean began encountering objects and structures that did not fit comfortably within the accepted story of human history. Measurements failed to explain them. Tools thought too primitive seemed responsible for results far too precise. Dates that were supposed to anchor the past began to feel uncertain. Soon after, scholars quietly admitted that something about humanity's early development did not follow the clean, simple path recorded in textbooks. Over time, discoveries accumulated that forced new questions. How could enormous stone blocks be shaped and fitted with near-perfect accuracy long before modern machinery? Why did ancient maps appear to show lands unknown to the civilizations that drew them? What followed surprised historians most. Evidence of scientific knowledge and engineering skill that seems centuries, and sometimes millennia, ahead of their supposed time. These findings were not myths or legends. They were real objects, real structures, real records, many still standing, many resting in museums. Yet they did not belong to the version of the past most people had learned. Historians now agree that these ancient mysteries exist, and they continue to challenge everything we believe we know about the earliest chapters of civilization. By the early 20th century, modern archaeology had begun shaping a structured timeline of human history. Excavations across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia established what seemed to be a clear progression. Small hunter-gatherer groups developed farming, then villages, then cities, followed by writing, engineering, mathematics, and organized government. Carbon dating, stratigraphy, and written records created a framework that appeared both reliable and complete. For many decades, this model satisfied most scholars. Civilization, according to this view, advanced steadily from simplicity toward complexity. Yet as research expanded, the timeline became harder to maintain. New discoveries did not always fit the sequence. Some objects suggested knowledge that should not have existed so early. Some structures implied technologies that modern tools still struggled to reproduce. Rather than rewriting the timeline, many early researchers treated these findings as anomalies, interesting but inconvenient. Over time, however, the number of anomalies grew too large to ignore. Historians began using terms such as out-of-place artifacts and anomalous constructions to describe items that seemed historically impossible. These were not forgeries or isolated curiosities. They were uncovered by professional teams, documented in academic journals, and stored in respected institutions. Still, their implications were unsettling. If accepted at face value, they suggested that ancient people possessed skills, knowledge, and organizational abilities far beyond what conventional models allowed. Understanding why this matters requires recognizing how much modern identity rests on historical narrative. The story of progress from primitive beginnings to advanced civilization shapes how societies view education, technology, and even human potential. When evidence challenges that story, it does more than rearrange dates on a page. It forces a reconsideration of how knowledge develops, it is lost, and how easily entire chapters of human achievement can disappear. The civilizations of antiquity: Sumer, Egypt, the Indus Valley, ancient China, the Maya, the Inca, and others are typically described as the first great experiments in organized human life. Textbooks present them as remarkable, yet limited, constrained by stone tools, simple, machinus, and slow communication. According to this framework, true scientific understanding only emerged much later, especially after the European Renaissance. But the growing collection of ancient mysteries suggests that this view may be incomplete. Some discoveries indicate that early societies understood advanced geometry, astronomy, and engineering. Others suggest familiarity with materials and techniques that would supposedly require industrial-level processes. Maps from centuries ago appear to show coastlines and landmasses with accuracy that modern explorers only achieved much later. Medical texts describe procedures and anatomical knowledge that rival early modern medicine. These are not exaggerations, but carefully documented observations. Why, then, were such capabilities lost? Civilizations are fragile. Wars, climate shifts, natural disasters, and political collapse have erased libraries, cities, and entire cultures. The fall of Rome, for example, led to centuries of lost knowledge in Europe. If such losses occurred repeatedly over thousands of years, earlier achievements could have vanished almost completely, leaving behind only scattered clues in stone, metal, and parchment. This possibility has encouraged a new generation of scholars to re-examine the ancient world with fresh eyes, rather than assuming technological limits based on modern expectations. They ask what ancient people were actually capable of achieving with time, organization, and ingenuity. As this approach gains momentum, the past appears far more complex than previously imagined. What follows is not a claim of secret histories or hidden powers, but a careful examination of real evidence that continues to puzzle research. These ancient mystery structures, artifacts, and records should not exist according to the established timeline. Yet they do, and together, they invite a deeper look into humanity's forgotten past. In 1798, when Napoleon Escolares first recorded the Great Pyramid of Giza, with modern instruments, they were puzzled by the numbers. The structure's base was level 2 within a fraction of an inch. Each of its sides aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal directions. Its construction required the placement of more than 2 million limestone blocks, many weighing several tons, and some weighing over 70 tons. No surviving Egyptian texts explained how such work was accomplished. The more measurements that were taken, the more questions emerged. Later excavations revealed that this precision was not unique. Across the Nile Valley, enormous temples and statues displayed stonework that modern engineers admitted would be difficult to reproduce today without heavy machinery. Granite blocks, quarried hundreds of miles away, were cut with such smoothness that even thin blades could not fit between them. Historians initially assumed lost techniques of copper chisels and stone hammers, yet experiments using such tools failed to achieve comparable results. By the mid-20th century, attention turned toward South America. In Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca, researchers uncovered the ruins of Pumapunku, part of the Tiwanaku complex. There, massive stone blocks lay scattered across the high plain. Many were carved with precise angles, deep grooves, and symmetrical shapes that appeared almost The stones had been transported from distant quarries over rugged terrain without the use of wheels or large draft animals. Local legends spoke of an ancient time when the stones were made to walk, but archaeologists found no practical explanation for their movement or shaping. Not far away, at Machu Picchu, in Peru, similar questions arose. The Inca city's walls consisted of enormous stones fitted together so tightly that earthquakes failed to dislodge them. No mortar was used. Each stone was shaped individually to lock perfectly with its neighbors. This method, now called ashlar masonry, required a level of planning and craftsmanship that contradicted assumptions about pre-industrial construction methods. Further north, in Lebanon, the platform of Baalbek presented, perhaps, the greatest challenge. Beneath the Roman temple complex lay foundation stones of extraordinary size. 3 of these blocks, known as the trilithon, each weighed approximately 800 tons. Nearby, an even larger stone, the stone of the pregnant woman, remained in the quarry, weighing over 1,000 tons. How such stones were moved and positioned remains unknown. No cranes or rollers from the ancient world should have been capable of the task. While stone monuments puzzled engineers, ancient maps troubled historians. In 1929, Turkish scholar Halal Etim discovered a fragment of a 16th century Ottoman map in the Topkapi Palace, created by the Admiral Piri race in 1513. The map depicted the coastlines of Europe, Africa, and South America with surprising accuracy. More striking was what appeared to be the coastline of Antarctica, shown without ice. Subsequent analysis revealed that the map's projections suggested a source of information far older than Piri Reis himself. He had written in the margins that his map was compiled from very old charts, some allegedly dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Modern geographers confirmed that portions of the Antarctic coast shown on the map corresponded closely to what lies beneath the ice to features, not officially discovered until the 20th century using seismic technology. Soon after, scholars re-examined the Orontius Phineas world map of 1531, which also depicted Antarctica with rivers and mountain ranges. Once again, these features aligned with modern, subglacial maps. How ancient sources could possess such knowledge remains unexplained. In 1901, Sponge divers off the coast of Greece recovered a collection of bronze fragments from a sunken Roman ship. Over time, researchers realized they had uncovered something extraordinary. The fragments formed a complex system of gears, now known as the Antikythera mechanism. Dating from around 100 BCE, it was capable of predicting eclipses, tracking planetary motions, and modeling the cycles of the moon. Its sophistication rivaled mechanical clocks built over 1,000 years later. In Iraq, another puzzle emerged. The so-called Baghdad batteries, clay jars containing copper cylinders, and iron rods were discovered in the 1930s. When reconstructed and filled with acidic liquid, they produced a measurable electric current. Their purpose remains debated, but they suggest experimentation with electricity long before its modern discovery. Ancient medical texts added further complexity. The Edwin Smith papyrus from Egypt, dated to around 1600 BCE, describes surgical procedures, trauma treatment, and anatomical observations with remarkable clarity. The text distinguished between treatable and untreatable injuries, revealing a level of clinical reasoning far ahead of its time. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerian kingless recorded a sequence of rulers whose reigns extended tens of thousands of years into the distant past. While modern scholars view these figures symbolically, the list itself demonstrates an ancient belief in civilizations far older than conventional timelines allow. Across the world, megalithic sites aligned with astronomical events. Stonehenge in England, Nabta Playa in Egypt, and Chichen Itza in Mexico all tracked solstices, equinoxes, and celestial cycles with extraordinary accuracy. These alignments required long-term observation, advanced geometry, and careful construction. As each discovery surfaced, it added weight to a growing realization. Ancient history contained layers of knowledge and capability that modern society had forgotten. The most widely accepted interpretation among historians is that ancient people were far more capable than modern observers have often assumed. According to this view, early civilizations developed highly refined skills through generations of experimentation, apprenticeship, and accumulated experience. Without relying on machinery, they used time, manpower, and organization to achieve results that appear astonishing today. Archaeologists note that modern societies often underestimate what is possible when thousands of workers labor on a single project for decades. The Great Pyramid, for example, may have taken 20 years to complete using coordinated labor, carefully planned logistics, and surprisingly effective simple tools. Lost methods of stone softening, advanced copper alloys, and forgotten surveying techniques are frequently proposed as explanations for precise stonework. Supporters of this view argue that much ancient knowledge vanished when societies collapsed. Libraries burned, craftsmen died without passing on their skills, and oral traditions were broken. Over centuries, what remained were the finished works without the instructions to create them. In this sense, ancient achievements seem mysterious not because they were impossible, but because their methods were never fully recorded. Other scholars and researchers suggest that the anomalies point to something larger. They propose that advanced civilizations may have existed long before those currently recognized by mainstream history. According to this theory, catastrophic events such as massive floods, climate shifts, or asteroid impacts could have erased entire cultures, leaving only scattered remnants. Proponents note that many ancient cultures around the world share flood legends, architectural similarities, and astronomical knowledge. These common elements may indicate a lost global network of knowledge exchange that predates known civilizations. The precision found in sites separated by oceans, they argue, suggests contact or inheritance from an earlier advanced source. While this idea remains controversial, geological evidence does confirm that Earth has experienced dramatic climate events and sea level changes, capable of submerging large coastal settlements. If early advanced societies existed primarily near ancient coastlines, much of their physical evidence could now lie underwater. Another growing field of study examines how repeated natural disasters may have disrupted human development. Ice age cycles, megadroughts, volcanic eruptions, and shifting tectonic plates have repeatedly reshaped the planet. Each major catastrophe could have reset human progress, forcing survivors to rebuild with only fragments of former knowledge. This perspective helps explain why certain technologies appear, disappear, and later re-emerge in modified forms. Knowledge may not advance in a straight line, but rather in waves of discovery, collapse, and rediscovery. No single explanation resolves every mystery. Some artifacts fit comfortably within conventional models, while others resist simple answers. Scholars continue to debate the extent of ancient knowledge, the nature of lost civilizations, and how much of the past remains hidden. What is increasingly clear, however, is that the old narrative of primitive beginnings followed by steady progress no longer fits the evidence. Human history appears deeper, more fragile, and more complex than once believed. When these ancient mysteries are considered together, they produce a quiet sense of humility. Human beings often assume that knowledge moves only forward, each generation building permanently upon the last. Yet the evidence suggests a more fragile reality. Entire systems of understanding can vanish. Libraries burn, languages disappear, and once mastered skills dissolve into legend. What remains are the monuments, stone, metal, and carved symbols standing as silent witnesses to minds long gone. This realization reshapes how modern society views progress. The towering skyscrapers, global networks, and digital systems of today may not represent the peak of human capability, but only the latest expression of a repeating cycle. Civilizations rise, achieve remarkable things, and tinfoil leaving fragments for future people to puzzle over. In that sense, the ancient mysteries are not merely puzzles of the past, but mirrors reflecting the vulnerability of the present. Despite the distance of thousands of years, these ancient builders and thinkers appear strikingly familiar. Their desire to understand the stars, measure the earth, Aeltesic and leave lasting marks on the world is deeply human. The stone temples, astronomical alignments, and mathematical records reveal minds driven by the same questions that motivate scientists today. Where are we? How does the world work? What will remain after we are gone? That continuity of curiosity forms a quiet connection between modern observers and ancient creators. Each artifact, map, or monument becomes a message sent across time, reminding us that the human story is not confined to the narrow boundaries of written history. There is also a subtle sense of loss embedded in these mysteries. To recognize that advanced knowledge once existed and then disappeared invites a reflection on everything humanity may have forgotten. How many discoveries were made only to be lost? How many solutions to problems were solved and then erased by disaster or neglect? These questions linger without urgency, yet they deepen appreciation for what survives. At the same time, the unknown invites hope. The idea that human potential has reached extraordinary heights before suggests that it can do so again. Each new discovery renews the sense that the past is not finished teaching us. Ultimately, the enduring fascination with ancient mysteries lies not only in their technical puzzles, but in what they reveal about human identity. They remind us that we are part of a much longer, richer, and more complicated story than we often realize. The achievements of the distant past do not diminish modern accomplishment. They expand it, placing it within a grand continuum of human effort. In that quiet realization, the ancient world becomes less distant and more familiar, its unanswered questions continuing to shape how humanity understands itself. As the evidence from ancient structures, artifacts, maps, and records is considered together, one conclusion becomes difficult to avoid. The story of human civilization is far more intricate than the simple outline once accepted. The past does not unfold as a straight line of steady progress. Instead, it moves through cycles of innovation, achievement, decline, and renewal. Entire chapters have been lost, leaving only fragments behind for careful observers to assemble. These mysteries do not require abandoning established scholarship, but they do invite greater humility. Every generation believes it understands the world more clearly than those before it. Yet the silent works of ancient builders challenge that confidence. They suggest that knowledge can flourish, vanish, and re-emerge in forms both familiar and strange. What remains unresolved is how much of humanity's early history still lies buried beneath cities, submerged under oceans, or preserved only in stories that have yet to be fully understood. Each new excavation, each recovered fragment, and each re-examined text adds another piece to a puzzle that continues to grow rather than shrink. In this way, the ancient mysteries do not close the book on the past. They open it wider, reminding us that history is not merely a record of what is known, but an ongoing search for what has been forgotten. The ancient mysteries explored here remained open to interpretation, and new discoveries continue to reshape what we think we know. If any of these puzzles captured your attention, consider sharing your thoughts and ideas. Which mystery feels most difficult to explain? What possibilities do you find most convincing? History is not only written by scholars, but shaped by curiosity itself, and thoughtful discussion keeps that curiosity alive. Continue exploring, questioning, and learning, because the past still holds more secrets than we have yet uncovered.